In Spanish, learning the question words is an essential skill from the very beginning of your Spanish learning journey. Why? Well, because you might want to ask questions and also you might be asked questions. So let's run through. What is who in Spanish? Well, it's going to be quién. And something you may already know or may not is that in Spanish we have upside down question marks. We also have upside down exclamation marks. Seeing the upside down question mark at the start of a sentence tells me, okay, I need to get ready to make this into a question. Otherwise, it's going to sound like a statement. If I want to say, do you have a dog? It's the exact same statement. ¿Tienes un perro? But I'm changing my voice. ¿Tienes un perro? I'm making it a question just through my intonation. So that's one useful thing about the upside down question marks. In real life, if you're WhatsApping, a lot of the time, people just leave them out. So quién means who, like ¿quién es ese hombre? ¿Quién es ese hombre? What is an essential word, and this one is ¿qué? 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 You may have come across different ¿qués. There's ¿qué with an accent, which is what. There's ¿qué without an accent, which means that or which when we're using it as a conjunction, joining two clauses together. There's lo que, which is kind of that which, or it can mean what when we're not using it as a question, like what I like about where I live, lo que me gusta de donde vivo. Similarly there, I use the word where without using it as a question. When is cuándo. For example, ¿cuándo es la fiesta? When is the party? ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? When is your birthday? Where is dónde? For example, ¿dónde vives? Where do you live? ¿Dónde está la playa? Where is the beach? How is cómo, and you may have seen this in the question, ¿cómo te llamas? What's your name? Notice that I'm not actually saying ¿qué es tu nombre? I'm saying ¿cómo te llamas? Literally, how do you call yourself, or how are you called? Why is por qué? Literally, for what? If you think ¿qué is what? For what? For what reason? Why? There's another por qué, which is all one word, and it doesn't have the accent, and it means because. Which is cuál. And let's pause here quickly, because actually the word which, in English, I feel like I don't use this question word that often. I probably use what a lot more, and when, and where, and how, but which I feel like it's bottom of the pile of question words. In Spanish, it's towards the top. And the reason for that is because we actually use the word which in Spanish, when in English we'd often use the word what. Even if I'm saying, what is your name? Instead of asking you, ¿cómo te llamas? How do you call yourself? If I literally want to ask, what is your name? I'd have to ask, ¿cuál es tu nombre? Which is your name? If I'm asking, what is the capital of Cuba? ¿Cuál es la capital de Cuba? If I'm asking, what is your favorite movie? ¿Cuál es tu película favorita? Which can seem a bit odd. Why would I ask you, which is your name? Well, the Spanish logic, the Spanish grammatical logic is kind of that if you're choosing from a set number of answers, then really I'm asking, which is your name? Because there's only X amount of names in the world. There's only X amount of capital cities. One of them has to be Cuba's capital city. So you can think of that as being the logic. So watch out for that, because you're going to hear people asking you ¿cuál something? And chances are in English, you'd think of it as what. But be careful, because it's not always used instead of ¿qué? Sometimes I would use ¿qué? ¿Qué te gusta hacer en tu tiempo libre? What do you like to do in your free time? ¿Qué haces? What are you up to? ¿Qué vas a hacer mañana? What are you going to do tomorrow? Because there's endless possibilities for those things. How much or how many is our final one. Now with this one, we've got four forms: cuánto, cuánta, cuántos, and cuántas. Just like cuánto and cuántas, I should mention that cuál can also become cuáles if I'm saying which and then something that's plural, because it can mean how much. ¿Cuánto dinero tienes? How much money do you have? But it can also mean how many. I use it with plural things. ¿Cuántos libros tienes en tu casa? How many books do you have in your house? And in that case, it's got to match up with the noun that I'm using. ¿Cuántas personas fueron a la fiesta? How many people? Personas. ¿Cuántas? Feminine, feminine. Now don't go just yet, because there's some key things to understand about these question words. Firstly, they all have accents on them. They either tell us how to pronounce the word, which is the emphasized syllable. Sometimes they just differentiate two words which are homophones. They sound the same. For example, sí and sí. This one means if, this one means yes. We've got the word que, meaning what, and we've got the word que, meaning that or which. Mi amigo, que se llama Juan, can also mean who. My friend, who is called Juan, or that is called Juan, which is called Juan. So that's just a conjunction, and this is our question word. Sometimes it's going to differentiate between the same word used in a question and not used in a question. For example, the word cuándo. If I'm asking you, ¿cuándo quedamos? When should we meet up? I'm asking a question. But if I say, cuando hace sol, me gusta ir a la playa. When it's sunny, I like to go to the beach. Where's the question? There is no question. I'm still using the word when, just like I can in English. It's not always a question word. The same with where. I like where I live. Me gusta donde vivo. In that case, I don't need the question marks, I don't need the accent. So some of these words can be used without the accent as their kind of non-question word equivalent, if that makes sense. Now this one's a bit of an exception. There is the word como without the accent. Como can mean I eat. Como also has two other meanings. It can also mean like or as. I could say, como pizza como los italianos. I eat pizza like the Italians or as the Italians do. In fact, you can make a sentence, como, and it means how do I eat? I eat like I eat, or I eat how I eat. Before you go, I've just remembered that there is actually a use of cuanto without the accent. And this is a little bit tricky because it uses something called the subjunctive. But if you're a more advanced learner of Spanish, then I'm sure you've already come across this. I can use cuanto to say something like, cuanto más comas, más querrás. The more you eat, the more you'll want. So here actually in English, I'm just saying the more you eat, the more you do something, the more something else will happen. I'm not really using any equivalent to this. But in Spanish, I would say cuanto más something, using the present subjunctive, más, and then the future tense. For example, I could say cuanto más español aprendas, o cuanto más aprendas español, más querrás aprender. So the more Spanish you learn, the more you will want to learn. And I hope that's the case.